Maybe if we really move into water, it'll rain. Many times in water, it is absolutely poured while we were doing the dance, which is really, really interesting. One time in Puerto Rico, when we were doing water, it rained so hard, nobody could hear me say a word. It was torrential. It's like the heavens just open up and just pour. So the elements do love to be honored. They really do. And sometimes they really speak to you and show you how much they appreciate it. But I got this little email from Misty, who you met on Saturday. Thousands of seeds are lifted upon the wings of the wind, the epitome of strength and grace finding nourishment among the fungi. The dance begins. Orchid and fungi spiraling together in the nectar of the earth, patiently flowing, evolving. The dance continues many moons. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, leaves, rootlets, spirit reaching for the sun, courage and elegance, bright and beautiful, quiet and serene among the moss. She is born, the exquisite Lady Slipper. Lady Slipper is an amazing herb. And when she came and visited me last week, and what was so amazing is that she said that she had this powerful urge to find a lady slipper growing in the wild. And she called up a friend and said, let's go find a lady slipper. And they are so rare. They are so rare. If you ever see one, it's like you can't even believe it's a plant. I mean, it's so unearthly. It's so amazingly beautiful. And they found one. She found one that day, and I was just like, wow, that's really amazing. She was just so thrilled by the entire experience of just going out there and finding it. So I wanted to share something with you that I really haven't shared for several years. This was my first vision of the chakras as a mature being, because as I was a child, as I mentioned, I believe, when we first met on the Saturday, as a child, I was surrounded by yoga books and pictures of the chakras, which I would ponder and look at and go, what is that? What does it mean? And I could not understand it or relate to it or feel it or see it. And then when I was living in Mount Shasta in the early 70s, I had a vision of the chakras as a flower with the earth, with this blue sort of sky, and then all the chakras, creating this amazing image. And there was nothing of it in my life at the time. I mean, this is way back in the early 70s. But this was what I made one winter in Mount Shasta. And I wrote about it in Herbs of Grace, how when I had that experience of that woman trying to harm me, and it was at the time that I was working with the White Brotherhood and Pearl and all the things that were happening in Mount Shasta. But when I became ill, when this woman was trying to hurt me, this is what I did, is I laid down on this. And at the time, it had golden petals, all, hundreds of them all around it, but the golden petals were just kind of pinned on because I never got them sewed on. They sort of fell off over the years. But I just remember laying on this, imagining myself inside of the chakras, and then just connecting inwardly and just going, all that is not good will leave me. I'm safe, I'm protected, I'm healed. I have some sort of mantra like that. And then I kept saying, I'm being healed, and I just kind of went into this really intense state of mantra. I didn't even know the word then. Because I really wanted to free myself from this woman's influence, because she really was getting into me. And I had a lot of pain here, and different things were happening to me. And toward the end of it, it was just like my whole auric field just opened up, and all of this sparkling light just flowed into me and just tingled and expanded. It was like electricity. It was the most amazing thing. And anyway, when I got up, I felt very, very different. And for the next few days, my foot swelled up. And I had to just soak my foot in Epsom salts, and I just felt like all this stuff, whatever it was, left me. And started having a very different sense of being safe and protected from others wishing harm upon me. But it was a very powerful thing. It was completely instinctive and completely from my own creativity as to how I did this. And so I do treasure it. Many, many summer schools ago, I used to get everyone to lie on it and things like that, but it's so delicate now. It's like 30, getting on for 30 years old. And so, over the years, some students have created mandalas. They've had visions in different ways, and they've created something for themselves. And I used to hang this on the wall. It used to look really beautiful on the wall, but it's really too old now, and it's been used in many ways. And I did make another one too that was the balancing the masculine and feminine, kind of like a star. And I made all this by hand, and it's all stitched by hand, and so I really love this. And I just saw it, and I thought, oh, I'm just going to bring it and show you what I did many years ago. Making something in material form. Of course, we can do it without sewing it in velvet. But that was a long time ago in a very different age and time that many, many winter nights spent stitching that. And when I knew Pearl, who was also in the person who was like the leader of this white brotherhood that's to do with the I am, she taught me to crochet, and I also crocheted this huge rug that was a rainbow that started from red and went out in a spiral. And as we know, with Tibetan paintings, with mandalas, with stone circles that we walk in and out of, when we do these conscious art forms, and this is the preparation in a sense for the mandalas that you're going to make next week. You brought your materials, and I know a lot of you were going, what should I bring? What should I do? And what's it going to be like? And who knows? It's just going to be fun. And if you didn't resonate with some of the things you brought, you can borrow from somebody, and you can share, and you can go out and find things in nature, and I'll bring things, and it doesn't really matter. What really matters is that you have an experience of working with your iris, creating a mandala, something really beautiful that will mean something to you, that will carry you through an experience of understanding your own eyes and the relationship of your eyes to your life and the world. And it's a very beautiful thing to do. And some of the mandalas over the years have been quite amazing. And some of you might think, oh, I'm not an artist, I can't do it, I don't know if I can do it. This isn't about being an artist. There isn't such a thing as an artist. I believe that we're all artists. It's just a question of whether we do it or not. As children, we were all 100% artists, musicians, dancers, philosophers, mystics. We were everything. We were everything. So the water element brings us into, here we have the earth, the container, the temple of the body, and now we have the water that flows toward earth. Earth is the gravity, the weight. If I drop this, it's going to go boom toward the center of the earth. And water is going to flow into it. Fire will rise. Water will flow into it. So we have this quality of the water flowing into the space, the container, the basket, the bowl, the lake, the ocean. So we have like the structure of our bones, and then we have the tissues, and of course we're like 70-something% water. We may think we're bones, but we're very little bones compared to water. And so the structure of the bones is really just there to hang the water on. So you begin to have a different relationship really between, the bone structure and the water, so the water will flow down. So we have this quality of water being drawn into earth. So the more constricted that our earth is, the more fearful we are, the more the water will flow toward the earth. And what happens when you have earth and water? Mud. You have mud. And a lot of times that's the way we feel about our emotional life. It's not clear, it's cloudy. We don't really know what we feel. We're conflicted. We feel one thing, then we feel another. It's dense, it's dark, it's difficult. I feel, but I can't communicate. I feel, but I can't ask for what I want. I feel, I can't speak my truth. And so we have this muddy, murky realm. I desire, but I'm too afraid. I want this, but I can't. You know what I mean? And so there's a tremendous amount of energy around feelings that have somehow become conflicted through our life experiences. When you watch young children who haven't had, you know, the restrictions, it's very open. It's very open and loving and easy. And then as experiences happen to them, these things change, you know, and then it all gets acted upon. But water, the amazing thing about it is how changeable it is. It's like if you look at water in the world, it's ice, it's steam, it's icicles, it's roaring ocean waves, it's deep, it's bubbling brooks, it's snow, it's sleet, it's hail, it's vapor that sort of collects in clouds and then rains. It's many, many things, and it's always changing. It's the changeable element. You put heat on it and it changes. You put water on rocks and it freezes and it'll crack rocks. Water will wash earth into the ocean. Water will change the sand on a beach. It's endless. You wake up one morning and your whole window is covered with snowflake crystals. Or you've got huge icicles frozen outside your windows. Water is always changing. It's affected by things, by temperature, by season, by the sun, by shadow, where it's placed, where it runs, where it gets stopped. Water is always being affected by things. And so we can learn a lot about water and the water element just by looking at how it behaves in nature. And so Thursday, when you're out in nature, become aware of water, what it does and how it does it. We were just driving away and I looked at my garden and I went, oh no, I forgot to water it. So I had to stop, jump out of my car and go water my garden, because the thought of the plants, you know, all afternoon with not enough water, I could already see them just, you know, like, oh, it's a little too hot. You know, and then it's like the moment that you water them, they all just perk up and look bright and happy, and you know, so you become very aware of it. And that whole little garden there by my house, I created from absolutely nothing with the help of Georgia and Cynthia last summer. There had never been a garden there in 20 years. And it really looks so different. And we just got in there. We did the earth first. We dug way down and we put in over 40 bags of earth and mixed it all up. And I was so glad for Georgia and Cynthia's strength and power. So we prepared the earth really well and bought plants. And then the watering and the sun and the plants. And just in 1 year, that entrance and all the plants are just in the beginning stages really for what it will be. But you can see the effect of the elements and how they work together and how you can learn from them. It doesn't matter. I mean, people often say to me like, oh, what an amazing garden. Are you going to do the front? Are you going to do side? And I go, no! My main garden are my students. They're the seeds and the flowers I'm working with. I go, sure, I love to have a garden, but that's enough garden for me. That's an entrance that can make everyone happy as it comes in. But the real garden that I want to nourish and water and everything are the souls, you know, the students, the ones that long to learn healing and for evolution. That's what I share my real essence with. And that's what I get to watch grow and change and evolve and heal. And that's the most exciting thing of all. You know, and so the water element definitely comes into this because the water element is the essence of nurturing. Yes, I've been a mother. I've had 3 children. And I just shudder to think what my life would be like if I was still totally attached to all three of my children, thinking that only my children and only my grandchildren were going to receive my nurturing energy. Poor things. You know, it would be like a menopausal disaster. You know, I have to have a couple hundred at least. You know, to play with and enjoy with and share with and, you know, share magic with, really. And, but the essence of water is that nurturing. I mean, there's several different aspects about it. When I think of water, and I think of, well, first of all, I think of Earth, and I think of Earth as the one point, the base of the spine, that is connecting to the center of the Earth through gravity. Then water becomes two. Because without two, you cannot have a wave going in one direction and a wave going back. And a wave going in one direction and a wave going back. So water is about two. It's about duality. It's about being there and going, I want to go there. And being there and going, oh, I think I'll go back. It's really that curiosity as a child leading to desire. When children are young, that's the first thing they do. They put out their hand when they want something. I want to go there. And so to go there, they learn to crawl. They learn to walk. And of course it's, wah! Get me that, you know. It's like, if they can't get it themselves, it's like, get up. You know, and so you see them go all through all these things, but it's the one wanting the two. It's wanting to get something, to go somewhere, to take it in the hand and make it yours. And so that's the essence of water, that's the essence of wave motion, is going from one to two. But then the other aspect of the wave motion, of all the waves in the universe, is that it goes like this, and then there's a back, and then there's a forward, and then there's a back, and then there's a forward, and then there's a back. And it's very, very important to understand that when you're in harmony with the wave motion of the universe, you actually move forward, but you keep moving forward, but there's always that little. And if you watch the ocean at the edge, it roars in, and then it takes away, and it roars in, and it takes away. It can't keep roaring in without taking away. It's impossible. So you really want to get in tune with the fact that it's not about being perfect. We're not going to be perfect. We're going to make causes, and then we may just go, oh, I think I won't do it today. I think I'll have a rest. Make causes. Oh, I'm doing really good. I think I'll have a treat. Make causes. Oh, now I can relax for a while. You know, it's sort of like, that's how we do it. We'll make causes, forget everything. Go way over there for a while, have the wave motions going in that direction and see what happens. Then you want to come back again. But the whole idea, you know, is the movement. And what is it that causes the movement? What is it that causes you to move towards something? With children, it's this wide eye. I want to learn how this works. I want to see what that tastes like. I want to touch. I want to put everything in my mouth. I want to smell it. I want to hear it. I want to learn it, figure it out. I mean, little grandkids, you watch them, they spend hours, you know, putting lids on and off. My little granddaughter, as long as you gave her 2 containers and she could pour into one and then into the other, you could keep her busy for an hour. She'd just be like, I should take movies of it, insert it into the film. You know, but the absorption and the contentment of just being, learning with those things. So it starts off as curiosity until you begin to favor one thing over another. I want this, but I don't want that. So you get the pushing away from what you don't want. So you start choosing your favorite things. I want candy, I want chocolate, I want ice cream. I don't want peas, I don't want spinach. You know, that's just one example, but it is like that. And so when you begin to desire one thing or another, then it becomes desire or need. And then, of course, if it moves along in life when people are really dysfunctional, it can turn into lust. It can turn into such powerful lust that you just want what you want. You don't care what price you pay or what the effect that it has on anyone. And so you can see how you can run the whole gamut from curiosity all the way through to the most destructive kinds of desire and dysfunctional need. What people will do, to get what they want. And of course it embraces also the whole realm of sexuality. The curiosity of the male toward the female and the female toward the male. The curiosity, but also the attraction, the magnetism, the sexuality, the desire, all of that happens between the sexes, how we're pulled in polarity from one to the other. And that happens a lot, in our teenage years and in our early years, is tremendous kind of magnetism and pull about the opposite sex and discovering oneself through the opposite sex. And then as that gets followed through, the next aspect of the water element that follows the sexuality, in many cases, and especially in tribal, primitive, and earlier cultures, was everyone was completely dependent upon the social structures that were created around the masculine and feminine. And there's many, many anthropological studies done on the different systems, matriarchal, patriarchal communities, many, many different ways. Certain things were taboo. You couldn't marry certain people. There's whole, anthropological studies on how all of these tribal systems and community and social systems are arranged around the sexuality and the production of children and the raising of children for the furtherance of the community. So all of that comes under the water element. It's a really vast and really deep field to do with curiosity, desire, sexuality, community, sociability, family, nurturing. Just the whole thing of nurturing a child in your arms, what happens? Back and forth, just like the wave. The children love that. With my granddaughters, one of them wanted not only this, but this at the same time. That was the only thing that would stop her crying, so you had to be up and down. And it's interesting that how from the very beginning a particular child will really relate to and resonate with a particular type of movement. And how when you watch a child, they actually from the very beginning show you many things about themselves through the movement and how they ask for things and how they learn to walk and how they learn to crawl. When my first grandchild was born, she would lay there with her toes pointed when she was the tiniest baby, and her little hands would go like this, like little propellers. It's the cutest thing you ever saw. I would just be like this. And I'd look at her and I'd just go, wow, what does that mean? It was like she was talking to me with her body. It was very cute. And then when she was in her nursing phase and she was getting really creative before she crawled, she would nurse in all the most extraordinary positions. She would just crawl all over her mother, like holding on to the breast, and get herself into all these unbelievable positions. And she'd be in down dog, or she'd be doing, doing this with nursing. Crazy. It was like completely experimental. And I see her doing that still with the way she draws and the way she does things. She just has this amazing way of getting herself into all these quite unique, creative ways. And that's very watery in a way, to follow the creativity, to follow the flow, to follow the movement. Where we get difficulty is where we stop the movement. And we kind of sink into earth and we just go, can't move, can't go there, can't do that, can't say what I want, can't change. And we just get into stopping the movement. And then if you watch people's bodies, how they reflect that. We're so used to just sitting at the computer, driving cars, brushing our teeth. When you think of the movements that you do, all day long, a lot of it is with the hands really like this, isn't it? How many times in a day do we actually do something like this? Or how many times a day do we do that? Or how many times a day do we bend ourselves? And I make sure I do all those things every day, even if I don't have time for a full yoga. I find that almost every single day of my life, there's certain movements that I really love to do. You know, and to really, really keep the body flexible helps to keep your emotions and everything moving. When I studied with Yogi Bhajan way back in the early 70s, he said, if there's anything you do in life, if you convince yourself that you can't do yoga, he said, if there's one thing you do in life, this is what you should do. So I make sure that I can keep my head on my knees, because that stretches out the lower back and the life nerve here, the sciatic. And for some reason, that really stuck in my mind, and I make sure that I can always do it. So I do it every day. So if you're the kind of person that really just can only bend this far, or can only bend this far, I really suggest that you just hang out there. Do all your telephone calls there or something. Until you finally get a little lower, a little lower, a little lower. And finally, feels so good. Really, seriously, good advice. And there's just a few things, and it really doesn't even take 2 minutes to do those basic exercises. And sometimes that's all I do if I get really busy. And it's enough, because yoga is many things. Yoga is life. Yoga is everything. It isn't just a posture or a class. It has many levels to it. Nice breeze. Yeah, so the challenge with water is to do something with all this changeability. If our water is reflective of our feelings, which this is where our feelings reside here, this is the feminine arc. This is where we've all been nurtured, we've all grown in the womb, and we've all been birthed from. So we have the water element here, and from this place, our very sense of feeling comes. And we have water-dominant people, just like we have earth-dominant people or fire-dominant people. Water-dominant people are often round, and they have moon faces, and they're watery, and they have tremendous sensitivity and feeling, and awarenesses and so on. Every element is a gift. But at the same time, if you've got too much water and not enough fire, then that can be a difficulty. Because the water, doesn't have fire to help make change. And so where you have the deficient elements, you need to build them up consciously. I had to build a fire consciously. And it's taken many years to be as grumpy as I am. Not that you get to see that part very much, but when I think of how I used to hold anything like that back, as if it was some terrible dark thing, and Bill will testify to this. When I'm grumpy now, I just go, I'm grumpy.
Doesn't last.
Doesn't.
And you said the other day, you said, I'm stressed. Like you just spelled it out, so you never used to do that.
I know. It's just like the moment I feel it's like I want to just go, okay, this is where I am right now. And it's amazing how quickly it will change if you just acknowledge it instead of pushing it away and letting it grow bigger. And, I find that the more one is present with the feeling as it is in the moment. How many times have you been in a situation where you're just like, well, I think I'll go, I'll see you later, bye. And then an hour later it's like, oh, if I'd only said that. Or the next day, like, why couldn't I have said that? And it's like in the moment, you don't even have any clue. You're disconnected from your feeling, and your fire, isn't giving you the energy. But then the heart has to warm it into love so you can say what you have to say, and then the voice is here, so then it comes finally. It takes a long time to bring it through all the levels of your being so that you can actually, here I am in this moment, this is who I am, this is what I'm saying, and this is my feeling. And just because you acknowledge it doesn't mean that you're 100% grumpy and that it will never change. sometimes when I do that, I actually imagine the little dwarf in Snow White. And I go, I'm grumpy, and then I go, oh yeah, there he is. And I sort of like connect with grumpy dwarf, and then I start laughing. It's very funny. Because, you know, I definitely have a part of my nature which does get irritated when certain things don't work. Sorry I have to say it, but it's true. And the quicker that we really face these parts of ourselves and really acknowledge them, you know, the better it is, the easier it is, and the less harm it does to yourself and other people, because we do have these elemental reactions, and mine is based on the immune reactive constitution type, which you're going to see and understand next week. And so once you really understand your constitution, then you understand where you get the overload, and you understand what it is you do when you get the overload, and then you begin to have a very different relationship. And then if you own it, see, because feelings are always changing, like the water element. And so we just need to be just like, this is what I'm feeling. It doesn't mean that it's, you know, has to overtake you. It just, like in a moment, it can just shift just like that. And when you have the shifting emotions, you know, you reach another level with water. And instead of feeling afraid of these different things. So just imagine the ocean, crashing against the ocean, you know, the walls, the cliffs, you know how it does. It pounds them and it crashes and throws up spray and absolutely just, you know, terrifying. Have you ever been in the water and felt the weight of water? Boom on your head, you know, it's just like concrete, and you're thrown all over the place and dragged through the sand. And, whew, you know, it's like water is so powerful. And so when you think about movies, videos, books, even poetry, plays, theater, when you think about so much of the dramas in life that you hear, that you see in all the different media and in people's lives, think about those kind of waves. The torrent of the surface of the emotional life. Emotion. Just churning and throwing and crashing. And a lot of people really like that. They think that's life. To be passionate and then to lose and to be suffering and then to be lonely and then searching and then you know, it's some people think that's life, and I think we've all been through that. I certainly have, where I was very, very deep into emotion. And then there comes a time when you begin to settle, and the emotion settles and moves toward the center. So instead of having these huge pendulum swings of the wild ocean on the surface of life, settling, 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 until you get down to the deeper. And what happens when you move into stillness, you really begin to feel the subtler emotions, the more refined emotions. And you begin to have a very, very deep connection between the water center here and the third eye. In fact, it almost gives you the information you need in order to be able to function here. Because it's tuning you to the subtle knowings and feelings of your being. But how hard is it to tune into that if your whole life is crashing and raging and you're feeling angry one moment, jealous the next, full of passion the next, and desire, and then hatred, and then anger, and then resentment, and then, you know, it's just like, it's amazing how people can just fly from one passion to the other in certain types of lives. And we see that, you know, in a lot of the movies and so on, how people are driven. You know, I had so much fun when I used to go to India for several years, because I would be sharing the Bach flower remedies and certain other things with very high-class Indian women. And it was like a revelation to them because of their repressed role and how they can't say things or do things and how they have to how they have to live. And this one particular lady just took off on the Bach flower remedies like it was her key to freedom. And first of all, she went around to all the male members of her family and treated all their horses. Horses that had fear, you know, horses that would resist, horses that had like problems. And she started getting results with these horses. So like the guys were going like, wow, she's really got something going here. And she would charge them. You'd charge them and buy saris with the money. It was very cute. And then because the horses would be racing better, winning more, you know, and they could really see that something was really happening. And this one time I visited this particular lady, and she said, oh, let's watch Dallas. And we turned on Dallas, and a commentary all the way through it. Oh, they should be taking, you know, white oat. What's their problem? Century is what she needs. She can't stand up for herself. My God, he's a rockwater. No wonder he's such a horrible husband. She sat there the entire time with Dallas, just relating everything to the Bach flower remedies, and her children would be sitting around her. It was really quite fantastic. You know, but to have a gift like that allows you to see deeper, you know? Seriously, it's amazing. Because you can just think, why didn't she say that? Look at all the things that happened because she... Did anyone see that movie, House of Sand and Fog? All the terrible things in that movie, which were dreadful, all happened because she wouldn't get out of bed because she felt depressed. I mean, it's like, what a movie, you know? So because she didn't get out of bed and answer her mail, she lost her house, then she got furious, and then all these people bought the house and fought over the house and eventually died in the house, all because she didn't get out of bed and read her mail. I mean, I watched the end of that movie and I just went, who's the writer? And sure, you felt really sorry for her because she lost her husband because he left. But why does she have to stay in bed and not read her mail? I mean, all these people suffered enormously. So I'm like, God. So, you know, you look at all the scenarios that happen in the world and you start going like, why don't they say this and why don't they do that? And what's their problem? Will they just get on with it? Speak the truth? You know, so then each one of us has an opportunity now to go to a new level with connecting with feelings and being willing to let those feelings come up, to give them space by not filling your being with all kinds of other things so that you can feel and listen and know and then say. It very much changes your life and it brings about a greater depth of health. Because one of the main things where we've all learned in the healing arts is that unresolved feelings get stored in the body and eventually create disease. Gary Young is very big on that in his oils, proving that, you know, with the effect and all this exciting work that I read in the winter about the molecules and the receptors on the cells and all of these things, you know, how we really need to keep ourselves clean and clear. So the idea with water, I mean, is compared to, with water, because we were, with earth, because we were working with the contracted energy force, we had to do the other, didn't we? Shake it loose, break it loose, stamp it loose, move our bones, shake our bones, release. Now, the thing with emotions is most people are acting them out, so we need to go yin and we need to go deep. And we need to find what our true feelings are. Once we know what our true feelings are about something, then we can act upon it. And I've grown very fond of becoming very comfortable treading water. I was always a good floater. I could just lay in the water and float. And I was always a good floater, but I've made it kind of a lifestyle. So I just float on the water of life and I go, well, you know, I don't really know what I'm supposed to do next, so I'm just going to be comfortable right here, right now. And I'm just going to wait for instructions, I'm just going to wait for feelings, but what's happening here right now is just fine. Or if I have to make a choice, I go in my brain and I go, oh, well, I could do this, or oh, but I could do that, and I'd be happy doing that, and I'd be happy doing that. So, you know, if it just doesn't happen, it doesn't matter, and that doesn't happen, it doesn't matter. What matters is that right here, right now, in my life, I'm doing good. So that's where I kind of consider that's my balance place. And that's how my mind is working when I'm in my balance place. It's like, oh, that could happen, oh, that could happen, and whatever happens is fine, I'm just here. And so, coming into that balance place and being in the transition, and then it's like, I'll just wake up one morning and it'll just go, buy that ticket to wherever. And I just go, oh, okay, and I just get on the phone and buy it. Now, I'm amazed by that time and time again. That's how I found the house by the lake. I had been in this house that I had landed in when I came from New Mexico, and Carol had helped me move up, and she drove this huge truck, and I didn't particularly like the house, and I was looking for a house when I got a phone call from my son saying that monks had moved his wedding ahead, and I had to fly to Thailand right away, so I just rented the first house that I saw and went. And so I moved into this house, and then I was due to go to Thailand again, and it was like 5 days or 6 days away or something like that, and I woke up in the morning, it was like, you are moving. And I just went, what? You are moving? And I just went, but I'm going to Thailand in 5 days. I'm like sitting in bed talking to myself, because this feeling was so powerful. And then it was like, you are moving. So I said, okay. And I just broke my whole routine, got up, went to a coffee shop, had a cup of coffee, and bought a paper. And I'm in the pen, and I'm going, okay, and I circled 3 things. And I looked at one, and they hadn't done a good ad. It was sharing a huge, huge house, but it was only half the house. I said, nope, don't want that. Went to another house in a beautiful location by a stream, but it was too run down. Nope, don't want that. And I was going, oh boy, maybe I don't have to move. And then I saw that house. And in the advertisement, they didn't even say lake. I just could not believe it.
Wow.
And I just called up the landlady and said, I think I want to rent your house. And she said, oh, well, you can't see it for 3 weeks because the people haven't moved out yet. And I said, I have to see it today because I'm leaving for Thailand and I want the house. And she said, okay. So I drove over there. And I walked inside and I was just like, oh my God, I am moving, you know what I mean? And I even had to pay 1 month in both places in order to do it. And I flew off to Thailand and then I moved when I came. It was amazing. So that comes from here. It doesn't come from here. That's how Patrick got here. I mean, I just woke up this one morning and I just like literally was in this dream state, and I just saw him filming the summer school, and I just emailed him and I was like, I'm having a dream here, you're filming the summer school. I don't know, you said something very poetic like, dreams come true. I seem to remember. And then we worked on all the details, but it really is about feeling, which is very, very different than emotion. The more emotion that you're in, the more you're wasting and using your energies on the surface of life with these passions and disturbances and desires and reactions and resistances and struggles and all of those things, the less you feel what you really need to feel, the less you feel the messages that are being given to you, the less you can interact from this beautiful feeling place with people. Without this, I mean, really in its delicate, beautiful, exquisite state, I mean, we are so restricted as human beings, and because we're so limited to the spectrum of passionate living, reactive living, we're just so much up here. Of course, as healers, and many of you are into all kinds of wonderful practices. It's like the deeper we go, the stiller we get, the quieter we get, the more we listen. And the more we feel, and the more we know. We just know. And when you know, do it. And the times that I don't do it, wow, I just go, I can't believe I didn't listen. It's so obvious. And that's really the secret of it. Yeah, so the water element is very mysterious in its changeability, but you see, eventually what happens is a constancy of feeling begins to take over your interior world, rather than a domination of changeability. And yes, you may have change on the surface, but your deepest, deepest connection is with what's constant, which for me is a kind of like, to describe it, it would be a mixture of sort of affection, appreciation, just kind of curiosity and enjoyment about the process of what's going on every day. I like doing many different things. I like washing dishes, I like preparing food, I like watering the garden, so the constancy seems to spread over everything. It seems to go into everything. And then when I get my little waves, when I'm driving a car and somebody does something crazy, or a piece of equipment doesn't work, and my grunt comes in, or my reaction comes in, it's like whoosh. It's not something that really stays or that digs in or takes over me. Because the interior constancy state is like my true state of being. I know those things aren't my true state of being. But, I'm human, and that's where I'm at. I'm still doing those things, so I go, okay, that's me then in that moment. But the constancy is a really beautiful state of who you really are. And it's just such a wonderful place to hang out. And sometimes it just feels so wonderful, that state of constancy of being. I just feel like I'm beaming it out of my eyes, I'm just drifting around the world or walking around Bangkok or whatever. And sometimes it's like, I think I said to somebody recently, my eyes just get so happy because the beams of love are just popping through my eyes.
You can see it in Puerto Rico, everyone's eyes are like that.
Yeah, in Puerto Rico, everyone's eyes are like lighthouses, it's because the connection is so, it's just whoosh, like that. But that's the work, is to get to the depth where you're in the constancy of who you really are and living from that place. And so whatever reactivity you have is so much less, because you really don't want to move from that place. That's where you enjoy yourself. That's where you enjoy life. That's where your relationships are rich and better. But it doesn't mean that if truth doesn't need to be said, you don't say it, or that if you're not comfortable with something, you don't, you know what I mean? Or there may be moments when you have to be the cobra or the bear or the tiger or the lion or the rhinoceros. There may be moments when that is needed, but it doesn't, it's like a part of you that's just there and then it's gone. And then you're in yourself again, and so. For me, the water is an endless depth, which every year reveals new aspects of being, and richness in the feeling realm. How much one can really feel and still be strong. So I'll just check this little book to see if there's anything. I know that salt is the taste, like the salt of the ocean. So taste and touch. Color orange. Guess what? It's orange. Yeah, and so looking at this, we think of the diseases of the reproductive organs. We think of fluids, blood, lymph. All the fluids of the body, the fluids in the womb, amniotic fluid, tears, sexual secretions, urine. We think of all the fluids of the body. We think of the reproductive glands. We think of the kidneys and the bladder. And of course, the purpose with the water element is also to preserve life, to bring forth children, to preserve the race. That's the aspect and the purpose. We think of things like baptism, holy water, the purification by water. We use water in healing, baths and steam. We use water in so many ways, poultices, hot and cold, alternating showers. We use, water in so many different ways. The water illnesses, the effect of emotions on the body. Impotence, frigidity, sterility, rigidity, suppression, reproductive diseases, pregnancy, birth, and lactation problems, excess or deficiency of fluids, people who retain water, people who just can't seem to hold water, You get all kinds of cases like that when you start working with people, all these different imbalances, of the elements. Water traumas, people who can't swallow, dehydration, thirst, drought, drowning, steam burns, ice freezing. I know someone who lost all his toes hiking in the Himalayas, speech turned black. I think he lost all his fingers too. People can have absolute traumas, related to water. And emotions can freeze. Although my work developed in England emotionally, I feel like I really shut down over the years. And it was so wonderful to come back to America where there was so much more of a sense of relaxation and openness and so on. So we use water for healing in so many ways. So we have this taste, the taste. Just as we have the smell in the earth, we have the taste in the water. I taste truth with all my being. So we can taste things in order to see what they're really like. That's what children do. They put everything in their mouth, don't they? And they feel all kinds of textures with touch also, which is the air element. They feel, they taste, they want to explore, they want to know, they want to learn through their senses. We want to be still and deep, but we don't want to be a swamp. We want to be still and deep, but there still has to be movement. Things have to be fresh. There needs to be a flow. It isn't that we want to be still. It's like we want the stillness, but then the movement as well. We have to have both at the same time. So the other thing too that comes into that is also this thing of yes and no. Yes, I want something. No, I don't want that. And so you begin to look at all the yeses and nos in your life, all the yeses that lead you to things and all the nos that move you away from things. And then there's an exercise where you can think of all the major yeses and nos in your entire life and where they led you, or the price that you paid for them. And it's a really valuable thing to do sometime. And when you get into the place where you want to make decisions, you can either go yes, no, and you can have this huge anxiety thing going on in your brain about, oh yes, I want to do that, but oh no, I can't do it, and oh, but I really want to do it, but no, and so on. You can do that, or you can just look at all the aspects of it and then just forget it. And then just come to the water element and wait. And sometimes you have to wait for a while. And every once in a while you may go up into your mind and think, well, where am I with that? And then you think it over again, and then you just let it go again. The knowing comes from here. So when you separate out what your mind does with information, where you're evaluating something, separate that from taking the information that your mind has figured out and bringing it back to your feeling quality. How do I feel about that information? I feel it. No matter, even if this and this happens, this is really what I need to do. Then you can follow that, or you can say, I don't know. I'm going to wait until I do. But it's like the information level here needs to be reconnected with the feeling. This is very speedy. The mind is very fast. You can go through a lot of information, a lot of possibilities, what ifs, prices to pay, reactions, effects, influences on other people. It can run through a whole gamut of possibilities to do with making a decision very quickly. But here, the rhythm is much slower and deeper. Being present with the idea of something coming into your life or something leaving your life. And so it's a different energy field. And women generally have stronger water elements than men because of the womb, because of children, because of lactation, nursing babies, periods. Our monthly flow brings us deeply into our feelings. The pill flattens it all out. In England, we proved in the gynecological clinic that I worked in with this medical doctor that the pill flattened all the women's emotional levels. Whereas women that just had natural periods would go into this depth. And often a lot of what people feel, what women feel with premenstrual is just a reconnection with their real feelings. That they've been overriding in a job, overriding with family duties, overriding with pressures or stresses of one kind, abusive marriage situations, difficult situations of one kind or other. The period comes and they reconnect with their feelings, and it's not comfortable. And it often affects the period and can create, gynecological difficulties as well. Abusive marriages and wounding have been known. It's not saying that it's not the other way too, but I'm just using this as an example. A lot of the reproductive problems that women have are often, I've never found one in any client that I ever worked with that wasn't related to an emotional issue or a difficult issue around femininity, sexuality, relationship. So it's a very, very deep and interesting field to explore. The connection of the emotion to the actual areas of the body. When you think of the earth element and you think of fear and you think of the colon constricting and constipation. It could have been a time early on in a person's life where they just had to do that in order to survive. They just had to just do that. We can trace these things back and we can definitely clear them. But one needs to, look very, very deeply at, and continue to do that. Deeper and deeper and deeper. So I do believe that's enough. There's always more. Is this yin experience of finding a way of falling deeply into yourself. It's a way of returning to this part of your being. Memories of the womb, to memories of nurturing. It's a way of recovering the wave motion, connecting with the wave motion of your being. So I discovered it in a very interesting way, as I was showing you earlier, when I was doing the kind of movement like this for many, many, many hours. I was very, very involved in this. One day I just was like, I'm so tired, I think I'll just sit down. So I just sat down and I went, this feels really good. I've been standing on one leg and then I've been standing on one leg. I've been, doing all this stuff. Maybe I'll just wave my arms around for a while instead of, And so I got very, very deeply into feeling my hands. And getting slower and slower and slower to beautiful music, gongs, bells. We'll be doing some of this. Maybe some really beautiful places with this. And so I explored that for quite some time and how that felt with different kinds of music and what that did for me and how it made my brain feel and the realizations and the colors and the senses of working with these amazing things that, you see many statues around the world of mudras. There's many ways of moving the hands, of feeling the difference between your body, close to your body, to this, to this, to this, and to begin to feel the differences in your auric field, and also to begin to feel how the auric field changes as you create different movements within it. And so becoming very, very aware of all of that. And just following my own sense of creativity in the sense of also very deep healing that was taking place after all those years in England and returning to a country as a stranger and so many things I had to overcome. A lot of fear, I had a lot of fear. I had kidney troubles, which is a water element thing for the first, water and fear. It's the first time in my life and things like that. And then one day I just went, I'm tired of sitting up. I think I'll just lay down. That feels really good. And I was just like, I think I'll just wave my legs in the air. So I'm waving my legs in the air and going, this feels really good. And wow, this feels really interesting. And I just kind of was going with it and feeling it. And then I went, you know what, this is what babies do. Babies do this. Babies wave their legs around babies are like rocking their sacrum. Babies are sending the cerebral spinal fluid up to the head. Babies are trying to, straighten their legs like this. And they grab their toes and they go like this. And they even manage to get their toes in their mouth and things like that. And so I started thinking, wow, this is pretty amazing, all of this. And then I thought, well, a lot of this happens in sex, too. You start waving your arms and legs around and opening your perineum and, it's sort of opening the pelvis. And so it just became this whole kind of like watery thing. And then I thought, this is just like seaweed. This isn't a baby, this is seaweed. I used to swim in the seaweed when I was a kid. Long things, that you swim in between. And then it was like, I used to do this when I was a little girl. I used to do this. And so I was just playing around with it and I was making all these connections. And the next thing I was going like, what this is like waves. Oh, this is like waves. And so it became like this whole field of exploration and connection on a lot of different levels. And of course, when we're born and we're babies, our pelvis is totally open and innocent. And then our culture shuts it down. And then we open it again in sexuality. And then we get wounded, and we close it down. And then we open it up again, and then we go, oh no, I think I'll be celibate. And then it's like, this is what we do. We open our pelvis, we close our pelvis, for different reasons at different times and different relationships, with it. And so, the water element is really about exploring all of those feelings and emotions and just letting your body go, because the music is very full of waves. It's the sound of the womb, it's the sound of the blood moving in and out of the the embryo with the placenta attached to it. There's some really watery sounds, and ocean, different kinds of ocean, different kinds of water falling. Until you really find yourself getting to that incredible place. Now I can tell you one thing. I can stand like this now, but after I do this water element dance, I don't think I could stand here for 1 minute. Why? Because I've become diffused. It's like it diffuses you and it kind of opens you up to this. And there's a constitutional type nervous sensitive, which is very much like this, where they just are like tuned to everything. And so there'll be that amazing sense of the field of the room and everyone in it. And eventually with the water element, you almost feel like you can see everyone just by feeling them. And you get very in tune with like vibrations and senses, just like a fish in the water. A fish in the water receives vibrations like that, and it knows how to avoid you no matter how many times you try to touch a fish. It always gets away. You can never touch it because it can feel you coming. And so there's all of that in it. So we're just going to play here. Just close your eyes and just go into the movement and just... Keep moving.
consciousness drinks.
Deep connectivity with subtle, exquisite, refined feeling. Expanding and contracting your being. So returning after water requires some delicacy, some sensitivity, some being very gentle with yourself. And some of you will also begin to feel feelings and emotions coming up tonight or tomorrow morning. You'll feel that you're being prepared for the next stage. Being prepared for release tomorrow morning, fire release in the afternoon. Being prepared to really transform some energy. And come to a new place of understanding, a new place of balance, a new place of being. So no partying tonight. The party is within. Would anyone like to share something?
Well, I'm just glad that you said that, because I was just lying there thinking, where does that good feeling go? I don't feel good anymore. You know, I don't feel really good in conflict, and I wouldn't go as far as saying turmoil, but really not right, you know. And I was thinking, well, I was expecting to feel how I felt after this morning's dance, you know, the dance. And when I come round, it comes as a bit of a shock that I didn't feel good. You know, and I wrote man, why? Why don't I feel good?
The earth releases, but the water will take you into what needs to be released.
Getting stirred up.
Yeah.
Yes, do
It's
that.
almost like this morning was more the surface stuff, and this is what's
Yes.
really got to come up. Yeah. And that stuff you don't really want to face. Okay, goodbye. So I'm glad that you said that. It gives me more of a deeper understanding of why,
Yeah.
you know, I feel the way I do. Okay.
And there may be some that feel the same way. Anyone else feel the same way? Not everyone will, but some of you will. And some of you, it might come later. Might come during the process tomorrow. But when it does come, that's a good question. Why? And then instead of resisting it and moving back from it, you know, let yourself flow into it. Some of the deepest experiences that I've worked through have been from consciously dropping right to the bottom of something, so I can really see what it is and feel what it is. And sometimes it takes time to really just, you know, into that container. It's very important to do that work, especially as you move along in life. It's very important to feel and to connect and find these places and move the energy. You can do it yourself. It's so amazing how much you can do on your own. Yeah, I tend to feel a little spacey with water too, so that's why it's so important that we pull back into ourselves and come into the circle and give ourselves some time. You know, it's like, I felt very micro today. Even though sometimes I made myself go more, it's like I always just wanted to come back to the really quiet, slight, small kind of, that's where I felt at home today.
Yeah, I was trying to push myself to go with the waves, even though they didn't feel as loud as they had before.
Yeah. Do we have some big waves?
I was big wave, and I thought this didn't last near long enough. I was really going to it, really getting into it, yeah. And it was time to be still, and I didn't even hear it until a long time, and then I thought, still. Yeah, I was really enjoying it very much.
I was enjoying watching some of you move into yoga poses, just spontaneously and naturally from the energy and the feeling of wanting to expand or stretch or grow into a pose. That is true yoga. I tell you, when the feeling is there and you feel your body just open into a pose, this is the most beautiful thing.
I was surprised that the big waves were not so scary as I thought they would be. When you said about the water, just let yourself. I know I don't like it, and you said being at the ocean, and imagine the waves crashing against the walls, and I'm very scared of the waves. And when it came, I was really surprised. I just had the feeling I just can let go, and unfortunately the body didn't work with it. I felt tired, I felt pain, so that, not like you, I could not let my body just go. I had a picture how it would look like. I had the feeling it's painless, but here it was not painless. But it was surprised. I was surprised it was not as scary and as suffocating or whatever as I thought it would be. That was interesting.
You were very still a lot of the time.
Yeah, because I realized that I'm quite good at structuring and I'm quite good at the earth, and then the water doesn't flow. And I was at the beginning, I thought that's weird. I want to use my feet. And I was just lying on the back, and I was missing the contact and then I had to go to be still, otherwise I would have had too much pain. I have pain in the back and in the leg, and the pain went when I was still, and when I could lay in the embryo pose. So yeah, so that's why I was at the end I really was in a very small movement.
And how's it now?
It's nice. I normally, when I lie down on my back, I get very, very cold feet, and the feet are warm. Yeah. That's why I couldn't write anything. I had to go back, lying on the back, and enjoy that feeling of having warmth through the legs and warmth in the feet. Yeah. And in the part where I store this pain a long time already, it was warm and painless, so that was very enjoyable.
Water flow. I mean, you have such a strong structured body, but the water, the filling out.
Yeah.
It's
I realized that it came very strong at the end. Yeah, the structure is there, but the water has to flow. And you were saying about the reproductive organs. I've got fibroids at the moment, but I think this is also something. It doesn't flow, and I couldn't have children. So there was also somewhere something stuck, and this started the whole water coming up, all the tears. I was thinking I'm pregnant, and then suddenly I realized, no, I'm not, and then, whoa!
Wow, very nice. A very deep connection with different aspects of the water.
Yeah.
A sense of knowing.
Vibration, yeah. Vibration. I just listened to what people were saying there, and I normally when I quote water, I think of above water. You know, it's usually the sea and but harnessing the water and harnessing the wind. But with this, I found myself going underwater the whole time. I was underwater and I was passive towards the water currents and the water flows, and there was no harnessing at all. It was a total passive. And I think that's probably good because that's a yin side rather than trying to get the wind or catch the wave or just feel. When you look at the water, to see it, you're drawing on its power, but you're the observer and you're not really down underneath it. And most of the time, I found that this entire time I was underwater, totally passive.
I'm feeling like really warm right now. Whoosh, just sort of swept up, not like a hot flash, but just. This really moves along. This one. It does.
For me, this one was a lot easier than this morning's for some reason. Maybe because I'm a water sign. Most of my planets are in water. But this just got so blissful. So blissful. It felt like I'd had a breath session. It was very, very similar to that. The water felt very familiar, like I was home.
Once the movements, become as if you are being moved. And if you've seen pictures and videos of really small embryos in the womb, when the pulse of the heart comes through, the baby is actually being flung in the womb water. It's the most extraordinary thing to see. I mean, the child is just flying open and flying like this. And I watched that with my second grandchild, the video of her in her womb. I could not believe it. It was such maybe I should go over there and get it and you could see it. And that was after I'd been doing this for a very long time. But it definitely showed me that the quality of the movements that we attain through this particular element has that quality about it of being moved, of having the body like in the water, undulating, letting itself flow like this. And so there's an amazing quality of bliss that comes with the stillness, with the movement, and that sense of reconnecting with that memory. It's there.
I also got memories of Atlantis.
We know that place.
Yeah.
We really do. Atlantis, tell us more.
Just the whole water element of Atlantis, that's about it. It was very strong. It was very much a cellular memory. It's hard to put words to it, 'cause it was just that feeling, ancient water feeling. Mm-hmm. I guess is the easiest way to say it. Ancient water. Mm-hmm. Of life in water. Mm-hmm.